Hey guys, it's Damon here. Just wanted to give you some in-service videos. We'll do this in a kind of a three-part series probably for the new LifePak 15. Have the LifePak 12 out here. Just kind of want to show you a couple of quick general things here to start. First off, one of the things you'll notice when you're looking at the 15 is that it is very similar to the 12. Most of the things that you learned from the 12 are actually going to work for the 15. So there's not a whole lot of changes, but there are a few which I'm going to cover right now. First thing I want to kind of cover is the bags themselves. On the old 12, we only had really 3 bags, these 2 on the sides and this 1 on top, so everything was kind of crammed in there. On the new machine, we actually have a few more pouches and bags, so we've kind of moved things around a little bit, and I think it's going to be a little more user-friendly. I'll start over here on this side. We still have the defib cable over here, and you're going to have 2 of your defib pads. These are pacer/defib pads in here. Those are adult only. Like before, we're going to continue to keep the pediatric pads in the pediatric kit. We have put all of our electrodes over here in this side pouch, so there's an extra pouch here, and you'll find your little gold-wrapped 5-pouch electrodes there for your monitoring. On this side, what we've done is on the bottom here, you've got your 4-lead here. You've got your additional chest leads here in the door, and then you've got your pulse ox/carbon monoxide detector probe right here in this upper pouch. So it's now no longer in this top pouch. The blood pressure cuff is now in this outer pouch here, right there. Okay, and we're like usual keeping the larger or the regular normal size blood pressure cuff on there. One thing that's a little different here, we do have this rear pouch now that we did not have before. Instead of keeping these in the ambulance like we used to, we're actually going to go ahead and keep them on the machine now. So now we have the larger cuff as well as the pediatric cuff on the actual monitor, so you don't have to actually send anybody out to your ambulance for those anymore. The other things in this pouch, we're keeping a razor blade for shaving chests. Your spare paper is now back here, so it's no longer in this pouch here anymore. And then the other thing we're going to keep in here is the test load thing for when this thing needs to be tested with a full defib. So those are the items that are in that back pouch. The top pouch, where we used to keep both the blood pressure and the pulse ox, is now where we're going to keep the capnography stuff that we had before, as well as your disposable pulse ox probes. Sorry, picking things up off the floor here. A couple things to note with your disposable pulse ox probes. There are 2 different types, and I do want you guys to really be cautious as to which ones you're using because there's a very big expense difference. This one's just going to be for pulse ox, this style here. This one here also has carbon monoxide detection. It is in a much larger pouch. I might even write on here something about, don't use unless needed or something like that. These right here are very expensive. Please don't use them unless you truly have a good reason to suspect carbon monoxide poisoning on a pediatric or something like that, and you can't get this large probe to work. The other thing you'll find in here, and we'll cover this in a little more detail. I'm actually going to do a separate video to cover carbon monoxide detection. But another thing you'll find in here is basically a small hood. And one of the things with the carbon monoxide is it actually prefers dark environments for good sensing. So you might actually stick your pulse ox probe inside this little dark hood. And that's going to be in here as well as one of your problem-solving things if you're having problems with the carbon monoxide. So anyway, those are in those upper pouches. Let's cover some more information as far as the actual machine itself. Okay. First on-off is same location. One thing you will notice that when you want to go to turn this machine off, you're actually going to have to hold down the button a little longer than you had to before. So just hold down the on button for a period of probably 2 seconds or so to turn the machine off. That's going to be the way you're turning it off. The other thing you'll notice is it no longer comes up in AED mode like the old LifePak 12 did. You no longer have to do the, where it says push analyze and the energy select up and down thing. It does still have the AED function, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make the AED work. First off, all you have to do is just hit analyze, and it's going to go straight into AED mode. You can hook up your pads, and you can use the analyze and shock buttons just like before. So we aren't having it set to default in the AED. We are going to have it set to where you actually have to hit analyze. I will show you another function, however, these things do continuously monitor
Connect
for...
electrodes.
I'm going to turn this back off so it doesn't bother us here. They do continuously monitor for VFib, VTach. So in this case, this patient was a normal sinus, and I switched them over to a VFib. Within a few minutes,
patient.
you'll notice that it does
No
say
pulse. Push.
check patient,
Analyze.
push analyze. So it doesn't take that long, maybe 5-10 seconds or so of patient in VFib, and it kicked itself basically straight into AED mode automatically. Okay, so if you were to turn this on and have your pads on your patient already and they were in a shockable rhythm, it should go straight into the AED mode on its own. But to force it into AED mode
patient.
faster, you can hit that
If
analyze
no pulse. Push.
button to get the AED mode started. Okay, so that's the AED function. Let's see here. A couple other things. There are a few buttons that have moved around a little bit. One thing you'll notice, pardon me here. One thing you'll notice between these two, the shock button no longer says shock. It's just this large shock symbol. They did move the sync button over just a little bit, so now it's in this location here. And there are some other extra buttons here that you didn't have before. So that this CPR right here, go ahead and turn this on. This button is basically a CPR metronome. It's part of the coaching system for doing CPR. You can do this a couple different ways as far as CPR coaching. You can just turn on the metronome and it'll ask you, in this case we can do adult no airway. This is following current American Heart Association guidelines with each of these different things, so it'll change itself depending upon whether or not you've actually established an airway or not. And it's basically just going to give you that metronome sound to let you know when to do each of your compressions to keep your rate appropriate.
3, 2, 1, ventilate.
And you can notice right there it's telling you to ventilate twice, so that's doing a typical 30-2 ventilation ratio right there. The other thing that we got that's going to help out with CPR coaching is this True CPR. I'm actually going to do a separate video to show how to work that. So we'll go into that in a little more detail, but this will also be on the ambulances. Haven't quite determined where that's going to be yet. I'll probably try to find some room in the kit for it. Let's see here. Turn this back on. Other changes. For those of you that like to use the event button, here's the event button. It still has all of these different options for different drugs or different things you might have done during a core. There is one new feature, is this cancel last. So if let's say you do hit an event that you didn't mean to, you can right after that go and hit event again, hit cancel last, and it'll actually cancel your previous event that you plugged in here. The other thing you can do is just hit the event button twice, and it's going to do a generic timestamp where it's just going to say event or generic or something like that for your ePCRs. We will do a later video that actually talks about how to transfer this information straight from the monitor to the ePCR computer. We have not quite figured that out yet, so that's going to be something we implement probably within the next few weeks to a month. So for right now, go ahead and continue to do your reporting just like we always have. The SpO2/carbon monoxide monitoring, I will actually do another video on that as well to go into more detail on actually how carbon monoxide works. One thing I do want you to be careful with is this cord here. Like usual, these are very expensive, and we really want to be careful that we're not putting any real tight bends or twists when we're putting these up. We want to just real gently either fold them back and forth, or you can coil them, but just make sure the coils are nice and big. I believe they said there's like 32 different wires in here, so it's very, obviously they're going to be very thin, and if we break those wires, it's going to mess up how this functions. So we really want to be careful to be as gentle as we can with this. This is not disposable, so please do not throw this out. As stated, it is very expensive. Just a quick overview. Works just like a normal pulse ox. However, this wire does have to be on top. It does indicate that you cannot put it on in this orientation or the sideways orientation for the carbon monoxide to work. It does have to be in that orientation. And your finger is also supposed to be pushed all the way to the back where the little stop point is in there. And what you'll notice is it actually monitors pulse ox on a regular basis. It will blindly in the background monitor carbon monoxide, and it really won't show you the carbon monoxide unless it detects a carbon monoxide greater than or 10% or greater. If it does do that, it's going to alarm. You'll see this start flashing red, and it'll let you know that you have a carbon monoxide value of 10% or greater. To shut off the alarm, you can just hit the typical alarms button. And then, like I said, in a follow-up video, I'm going to give you some more details as how to diagnose whether or not that's a faulty alarm or whether you actually have somebody with carbon monoxide poisoning. Okay. That would cover those. Let's see what else I wanted to cover with you guys. Another quick button that's on here that we didn't have before. It does have a basically a bright light type of button here. It's basically switches to black and white mode. Supposedly this is useful whenever you're in bright light, like outside and the sun's glaring red on the screen. You may find it useful to just hit this little button right down here, which will kick it into this black and white mode, apparently making things a little easier to see. The 12 lead monitoring. So it does apparently have some better software than before as far as 12 lead monitoring and looking for STEMIs. So with any luck, you will actually see some increase there as far as how good that interpretation is. When you hit 12 lead, you're going to have it asks 2 questions instead of just 1. So previously it just asked age. Right now it's going to ask age. We'll just say this is a 53, and it's going to ask male or female. So you can just say male or female here. And then it's going to fairly quickly print out a 12 lead. One thing it's going to do is it's going to print you out one 12 lead or fairly quickly. Then it's going to continue to monitor for quite a while, actually, the 12 leads in the background within the machine. And what it's looking for is ST elevation changes. So if you get a 12 lead and then a little while later it prints out another 12 lead and you didn't tell it to print out a 12 lead, it's actually trying to warn you that there's been an ST elevation change within that patient. It may even do that a couple different times. So if you actually have a true STEMI kind of working, you may want to pay attention to that, especially if it's printing out 12 leads that you didn't tell it to print. It's trying to warn you that it thinks there's a STEMI situation going on with your patient. You do still have this leads button here. One thing you'll notice is that at times it's going to say paddles 2 and then 2 SPO2 CO2. At other times, once you've been doing a 12 lead for a period of time, it should give you some more options in there as well. Let me see if we can't get it prompted to do that. We'll kick it back to that VFib mode and see what it does there. It should have actually given me some more options for lead 1, 2, 3, AVL, AVR, AVF, that kind of
If
thing.
no pulse, push,
So once again,
analyze.
it's actually noticing that I put my patient in VFib, VTAC. I'm going to put it back in normal sinus just so it kind of quits freaking out. We just hit the home button, should exit it. Actually, you can hit the energy select up and down here as well, and then you can go back into manual mode, and then that way it gets it out of AED mode there too. So you notice it went straight into AED mode. To get it out of AED mode, you can do that, and then it goes straight into wanting to shock the patient. You can hit home to get out of that. There you go. So now I just hit lead, and now it gives me all these different options. So now I have, lead 2, 3, AVR, AVL, AVF, several different options as to what I want my display to look like. And we can move this down to, let's just say lead 1, 2, 3. Okay? Another thing, this thing does have a lot more storage capacity than our previous LifePak 12s as far as the number of reports it will remember. So the storage capacity is increased. The other thing you'll notice with these is they do their own user tests. So the old having to go into the options and do a user test, these things are going to do a user test at 3 in the morning every day. So for now, what we're going to kind of do is let those things print off and pile up. We may, in time, kind of create a policy where we just kind of open the door whenever these are like sitting over at Genesee, let's say, so that the paper doesn't just print off over the course of a week or two and have a whole bunch of user tests piled up on the floor. But for now, let's just go ahead and let those print off. You can just tear them off and attach them to your daily checks or your weekly ambulance checks. And you don't really have to worry about manually doing a user test anymore. All right. I think that's about it for my general video. Feel free to shoot me any questions on my email, and I'll do a couple more follow-up videos to give you some more details on the true CPR as well as the carbon monoxide detection.